1, 0, start.
Okay. Okay. I hope I'm audible to everyone. Uh, hey guys, hello. I'm Kanishk on the behalf of the National Law Training Institute. And today we have a very special session where we'll discuss the last 2 months preparation strategy and any other doubts you have, specifically based on the last 2 months. And for that, we have a very special guest with us, Jishnudeep Kole. He's CLAT All India rank 46, AILET All India rank 3. He's also easily the smartest kid we know in our batch. But his greatest achievement is that he has survived me as his roommate for 3 months, especially during that one tough month in August. So hi Jishnu.
Hi everyone. So yeah, nice to interact with you and some flattery that Kanishk has, with some flattery that Kanishk has introduced me. I'm not sure the entire part is true, but uh, chalo, let's start this. So basically, the session will be
Uh,
about how one should strategize the last mile or the last 2 months of your preparation. And both of us, we are going to just talk about how we went about our preparation in these last 2 months for CLAT and for other exams or other law exams. So I also gave AILET, and yeah, so we're just going to talk about that. And so I'll just prepare this slide, and we'll give you
yeah,
tips about all the 5 sections, and then there's going to be a slide about the general tips that I feel one should know, something that I have learned or through my experience, and something that I haven't implemented but I feel I should have implemented. So yeah, so Kanish, do you want to add anything or we can
yeah.
start?
I just want to add that the session is very interesting in the perspective that Jishnu was a dropper and I was a fresher. So you'll get two perspectives on how to study for the
Mm.
last 2 months. Obviously, there's a change that when we were freshers, we had to deal with boards in the way. But for you guys, for the CLAT 23 aspirants, boards do not come in the way. So it will be different for you, but you'll get two different perspectives. So yeah, let's start. We'll go section by section, starting with the English, right?
Right, so let's start with English. Okay, so uh, see, the thing about English is that you can say that the entire paper is actually the English section, right? So you need a very thorough grip on your English skills, and so assuming that you have covered the basic things, you have covered how to go about an RC, what are the basic concepts in RC, like inferences, assumptions, and all these stuff, and how to differentiate between an inference and a fact, and all these things. So now your your main focus should be on practice, right? And so what I did in these last 2 months, my focus was on practicing from GMAT and LSAT. So there was this app that I used. It's called GMAT Club. So in GMAT Club, you can search for um, questions from GMAT, LSAT, and there are like many questions and from different exams, and you can set the preferred level of difficulty. So there's 650, 700, above 700, and all these. So you can practice from there, but just one caveat that I want to add, that don't just fret over what how many you're getting right, how many you're getting wrong, because GMAT and LSAT, they are like, honestly, they're like much tougher than CLAT. But what I feel you should uh, try and understand from these questions, that what you can learn from each and every questions, whether you get it right, whether you get it wrong. There's a very typical way that GMAT and LSAT questions are to be solved, and it might not be that CLAT question in CLAT you solve in that way, but if you know the correct way, then CLAT becomes much more easier, right? See, English, if you know how to go about the RC, if you can strategize it really well, then getting somewhere around 25, and even above 25, it's not that difficult. It's not rocket science in CLAT. And given, if I remember correctly, like 2022 English, it was not that difficult. And so just practice from GMAT Club or whatever source that you can. So practice from GMAT and LSAT questions. Don't just fret over how many you get right, but just try and make sure that you understand what their logic is. See, what I did was I just practiced the question. And in GMAT, one thing that you don't try to read the entire passage, in like few seconds or 1 minute, because GMAT passages, they are like pretty big, and they will have very small
Yeah,
intricacies and all those things. So just read it
yeah,
slowly. Your main aim should be to get to know their thought process and compare it with your thought process. And yeah, so that's it for GMAT and LSAT. And guys, one more thing, don't just because they don't ask grammar questions, don't just leave it out. because if you're like strong in grammar, it's going to help you comprehend the passage really quickly. And vocabulary, most of the vocabulary, it's going to be for contextual vocabulary, but that's actually an advantage. So you can get them right if you like read the passage really well. And the last and probably the most important thing in this entire paper is that you should read from varied sources. So what I did was I used to read from uh, this newspaper. I used to read one newspaper. I used to read the Hindu. Honestly, Hindu. If you read the editorials really well, it just gives you a what you have to cover for GK, what the important topics are, national, international, whatever. And another source which I loved is reading from Guardian.com. So Guardian, it's an English newspaper, and it covers like UK politics or international contentious topics, and it's a very fun to read newspaper, online newspaper, and the English is also really good. So Guardian is something that I would recommend. And after that, you can try aeon.com, but aeon.com is a bit complex, 1,000, 2,000 word uh, essays. So yeah,
I
and
so for Aeon, I'll say I never read it. Did you ever read it? Uh, did you ever
yes.
read
So
Aeon?
Aeon is, I mean, it's a good read. It's fun to read. Some topics are fun,
It's
but it's not that important for CLAT.
yeah, the people
If you
really
like
hype
want, you
it
can
up a
read it.
lot. It's not really important. It's not really
It's
important.
not actually. So if you like reading about something, you can
Um,
read. I like reading on literature. Sometimes about psychology. So Aeon was
yeah.
sometimes it was like fun to read. And
So I'll add a few of my own
okay,
points.
sure.
Jishnu, I
I think
think he has
Kanishk is
an
having
internet issue.
some network problem. So
Yeah, yeah.
just
You carry on.
so I'm just going to wait for him, and I'm just going to answer these questions. So
Yeah, yeah. So basically,
okay, so
Riya Singh wants
Yeah.
to know that on GMAT, the explanations are not provided. So how do we go about that?
okay, right. So
Eh,
sometimes so in GMAT Club, if you like create an account, you don't need to pay anything. It's the entire thing is free. So if you create an account, you'll get the explanations, and sometimes they don't have explanations. So what I would suggest is choose GMAT questions from 2018 or 19, some older questions. You can even choose like 2010 or 11
yeah.
questions. So they are most likely they will have all the correct explanations, right? And
Yeah.
okay,
So
so
sorry.
frequency of mocks,
Yeah.
see it frequency of mocks. So I used to take mocks around like twice a week, and every second weekday. I mean, see, frequency is something that depends on you, but towards the end, I think twice a week or maximum twice a week, that should like suffice, not more than that.
I think towards the end, towards the last 5 6 weeks, you can go for 3 mocks a week. I think
Ah,
I did three
three is
mocks a
good.
week multiple weeks. I think one week we even went to four, and Rishabh used to do four regularly. So you can increase the mock frequency, but what is important is that you analyze them as well. Otherwise, there will be no
Mhm.
proper learning for you. So the point I was adding before I lost my internet connection. I'll suggest. This is something I did as well. For the last 1 month, I prepared a lot of GMAT and LSAT as well. But the last 4 5 days, I focused especially on LSAT for one particular reason. The LSAT passages are much more larger in size. So basically, the point is to prepare you for a very hard test. So when you practice LSAT passages will be much more dense and much more difficult and even I think longer than CLAT test. So if you get used to solving those in timed conditions just few days before CLAT, I think when you give the actual CLAT paper, the small passages which are easy to read will seem much more easier because you have just gotten used to solving much more difficult passages. And this is a strategy I think I went by in general as well, which is the tougher the prep, the easier the paper. Basically, if you make your preparation very difficult, the paper will actually seem much more easier. So if you practice more of GMAT, more of LSAT, which is obviously much more difficult than CLAT passages because they are graduate level paper, and CLAT is a paper you give after the 12th. So your paper will seem much more easier. That is what I felt. I think this is something a lot of other people also felt. Another point is that don't leave actual CLAT passages in the last few. Practice them as well because see the thing is, as much as we like LSAT and GMAT, CLAT is not really similar in the sense that reading the passage very well is not very important in CLAT, is what I've noticed. GMAT, LSAT, you need to be very thorough with the passage. But CLAT usually tries to play you in with questions. So, and sometimes a lot of them are wrong, as we saw in our own paper. But it is very necessary that you be used to bad questions, bad passages, and just in general, the stuff CLAT pulls. So don't ignore that. But for the last few days, I'd suggest that you practice GMAT, LSAT, so that you can prepare for a much harder test. In case a harder test comes, that will be good for you as well. In case it's easier, you'll just breeze through it. Yeah. And others, I think I'll agree
Right.
with most of what Jishnu said, except I'll think that vocabulary, last 2 months, I don't think you really need to do vocabulary. It feels like a waste of time if you
No,
haven't done till now.
something. No, it's okay. So, in my last 2 months, I didn't do vocabulary. So, what I did was I just
Yeah.
read from varied sources that just amped up whatever I had learned.
Yeah.
It's not like something I did separately. Yes. So there's this one question that how to improve retention while reading the entire passage. Okay. So, what I used to do is that I just used to read the questions, specifically the question stems once before going to the passage, and that actually just will help you to go back to the specific area. Yep. So that's it. And Kanishk, what was the source that you used for
For
LSAT?
LSAT,
There's
so
this
I
question that
had
shows.
like seven. So I'm pretty sure it was an illegal source because somebody just sent me like 17 LSAT tests, prep tests. But you can
No,
easily
so
find them
yes,
over the
you can find.
internet. You can
Yeah, so
on
GMAT and LSAT
Telegram.
you can find in GMAT Club.
and and there's a website which has, and the thing with LSAT and GMAT is it's very easy to find questions and answer solutions for them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really need to look hard. You just have to, I think, spend 30 minutes. You'll get material which will last you for at least a month. I think I found 17 prep tests very easily in like 15, 20 minutes, and I never completed all of them. I think I have attempted like 7, 8. So it's
Mm-hmm.
easy to find. If you have problems, maybe you can message us. I think I'll see what I can do. Uh, and as for the
Sure.
retention question, so obviously strategy for everyone is different. What I did, even I realized that I'm not retaining a lot of information read. This was in the earliest phases of my preparation when I was, I think, 2, 3 months into preparation. So I sort of switched my strategy. I went to the strategy of reading very slowly, like something we do for GMAT, where we read very slowly, but we answer quickly without looking back at the passage. This is something we do a lot in GMAT and LSAT. This is something I tried. With time, I was able to increase my speed as well, and because I had just grown used to the CLAT pattern, so my retention automatically increased. But to improve retention early on, this is something I did. I read the passage much slower and try to understand every argument or try to understand the passage in detail. And I know it may cause a time crunch, but I think the retention is something which is very necessary, because otherwise, if you don't retain, what you do is you go to questions, you
Mm-hmm.
go back to the passage, you just keep referring back, and you lose much more time that way. So for the if you're if you're just countering this problem, what you can do is like start reading a bit slower and try to understand the passage and solve the questions very fast. Don't go back to the passage while solving the questions. And you honestly won't need to go back to the questions, go back to the passage while solving questions if you've read it slow enough, because you'll comprehend it. So that was my strategy. Yeah, continue.
Right. Yeah. So what we can advise all of you is that just practice a lot and then you develop what you feel is right for yourself. Right. So many
Yeah,
people you can have like different strategies and all of them there's nothing like wrong strategy. So yeah, just practice and just try fine tuning what you feel is the best for yourself. Right. So should we go to
yeah,
LR? Right.
yeah.
Okay, fine. So
Yeah,
next
general
is
knowledge.
GK. Right. So general knowledge. So again, assuming that done, you have studied like the GK of past many months, and now what you have to do what around 1.5 months or and another what 10 days. So now what I feel is the most important is revision. And what I used to do is before each and every mock, I used to just go through my notes of the last few weeks. And what the thing that helped me is I developed this visual memory. So CLAT, it's an MCQ based paper, right? So you have to take advantage of that. So the correct answer is actually right in front of you. And so during my prep, I never I could like never recall some specific names or dates or themes. But if like they were there as one of the options, then I could select the correct option. So that's
Yeah.
something that you can try if you like revise it uh, consistently.
I,
That's something that you can develop. And one very important thing is, I mean, note about GK notes. I think Kanish would be able to like explain much in a much comprehensive manner. But what I did is that I compiled notes under a single topic. Like for example, if you read something on environment, then you should know about the COP26 that happened last year, and what are the SDGs, and how what's the when was the first COP? When did COP take place in India? I think it
Yeah,
took place in Delhi or something. So you
Delhi.
don't okay. So one case that do not get into that FOMO mindset. Just limit your sources and revise whatever you have learned. So don't just use a lot of sources, and that's just going to mess up your strategy, mess up your preparation. So limit your sources and revise them. And one thing which I tell is that if you cover the common sources, if you cover like newspapers, I used Manthan. Apart from newspapers, I use Manthan, and I used to refer to Drishti IS, but I just like for very specific facts, not the entire things. So if you like cover all the common sources, you're already in competition for the top five NLUs with respect to GK at
Yeah,
least, because that's something that everyone's going to do. And apart from that, if you do something extra, that's something that's going to give you the edge. And another very important thing, don't forget static, because CLAT again, it being unpredictable, you never know what they're going to throw at you. So that's something that
yeah.
important. So don't
So,
forget that. And yeah, so now just revise. And
so I think the most important thing he has said here is the visual memory aspect and how the correct answer is right in front of you. I think by the end of our preparation, what saw was that we were able to answer questions without even looking at the question. We would just see the option, we would know this is the correct answer. And I think that obviously comes to a lot of practice and a lot of revision. And for that instinct to come, like where you know this is the correct answer without even looking at the question, because you need to be very fast. GK, that section you can save time in as well. You need a lot of practice.
mm,
And this is, I think, a lot of people don't tell that you really need practice for GK as well. So I think there are
mm,
multiple sources where you can practice. I think GK Today has MCQs. Even CLAT Post has a lot of questions. So solve all of them, and I think we are launching this. We are launching this 2000. Sorry, we are launching this 2000 questions booklet. I think it is already shipped. The first shipment is already shipped out. It's in the work. You do that, and the reason I'm suggesting it is because if you solve these many questions, 2000 questions is a very big number. So just by the virtue of like ticking at them, just remembering that, your visual memory of them will increase. So any question which asks the similar question, because I think a lot of questions will be similar, you'll be able to answer
mm,
them without putting in a lot of effort. Because see, the thing is, what happens is when you just read your notes, obviously you may remember a lot of stuff, but when you force your brain to recall stuff by solving questions, your memory is much higher. This is a process called active recall, where you are recalling stuff instead of just reading it. So when you actually solve it in the paper, your memory, even if you haven't revised them, your memory will help you retain some of the information. That's why I think practice is very essential in the last 2 months. Practice a lot of GK as well, like solve questions. I think for us, Legal Edge used to have this monthly test, something which had 200 questions. You have the CLAT post, you have this
mhm.
2000 questions booklet. Solve all of them as well. So that will help you a lot, because we really don't know कि CLAT में कैसा आएगा. We have no idea what kind of GK will come in CLAT. So just solve a lot. Okay, yeah.
And see,
I just saw
GK
the
is something
question.
that yeah. So okay, so GK is something that it's worth the effort. I
Yeah.
mean, if you like put in the effort, you're already with the
E-
crowd, and then you can just uh, you can see if you like cover the common sources, you're already in competition for the top five, and then whatever you do, it's worth the effort. You can be competing for the top three and possibly even for NLS.
Possibly
Okay, so
analyst,
just
yeah.
one thing. Yes, so we can refer. Can we refer Pratyogita Darpan? Okay, so I didn't refer Pratyogita Darpan, so I won't be able to comment on that. But just
Even
again, see, sources can be a bit subjective. So
hmm,
just read it once and see. Pratyogita Darpan is something that's I don't know a lot about it, but I think it's like much more important
It's
for UPSC and all those stuff.
yeah. I don't think you
So
really need it for
uh,
class. I think my parents read it.
yeah, so it's
Like
just
if you
basically going
download
to
it, I don't think you really need to read
flood
it.
your mind with facts. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. So you
and
should from the month of July, you should cover at least like from the month of July. Yes, right.
I'll
And
suggest you cover from
okay.
June because I think we didn't have any questions
Ah.
from June in our in our paper. So at
Mhm.
least anything from June can come for sure. So
Mm.
I'll suggest that you
And well,
make base your
yes.
preparation since June, and if you have a lot of backlog, this is not probably the best strategy. But what you can do is you can just go through the compendiums that multiple UPSC websites release and just solve questions through CLAT post, and I think that should suffice for those months. Because,
Mm.
guys, what you need to understand is the most important months, and this is a pattern we have noticed from since the pattern changed are like 3 4 months, like the 2 months before CLAT. So for your year, it will be, I think, August, September, October will be the most important months for GK. Even for us, it was February, March, April. Obviously, our GK was very difficult and very different, and you can have the same. But I think these 3 months you'll really need to focus on. So focus on these 3 months. For the other months, and especially for the June, July backlog, they really don't ask at the start of the preparation stage. You can refer to, I think, compendiums and solve questions from those months, and that should be enough if you are in such dire need that you have started preparation in September itself. Yeah.
Okay.
Also,
So
somebody has
would you
asked, would you
recommend?
recommend Manthan over? Yeah, I was looking at the same question.
Mm.
In my personal opinion, I wouldn't. I think Manthan is a bit too comprehensive. Like there's, of course, it's
Mm.
released weekly, and I think a lot of facts are very useless, very useless in Manthan in comparison to CLAT. So I'll suggest CLAT post because it's shorter, it's more succinct. I don't know. I'll suggest CLAT post, but I won't recommend Manthan
Yes.
over it. You can do it.
See the thing
Huh,
is, see the thing is, CLAT post is very crisp, right? And it's
huh,
very easy to read and all those things. But Manthan, what I find very interesting about Manthan is those blue or black boxes, and they just give you the background information. So just skim through it. You don't need to do everything, but just know what it's about, and that can help. But see, I think I didn't like make notes for each and every topic, but do what you feel is the best for you. But just don't flood your mind with unnecessary facts, and
yeah.
you just limit your sources and do those. Just limit your topics and do those topics in detail. Cover everything about it, and our GMB is worth it. I mean, I, yeah, they're a
Yeah.
good
See,
source for practicing.
I don't know what you actually mean by
Sometimes they
worth
can
it.
get.
If you're talking about the money,
Uh,
we didn't really pay for it. So maybe if you haven't enrolled
uh,
with Ellie, you'll have to pay for it. And I think like the legal GMB, I think it was a good practice resource in the last 3 months because I realized that I was practicing a lot outside CLAT. I was practicing a lot of GMAT LSAT, and for like something because as I said, practicing actual CLAT stuff is also very important because CLAT is slightly different. So I think GMB was a great resource for that, especially in the last 3 months. I think GMB was the only CLAT resource outside mocks that I used. So I'll say they were worth it, except the maths GMB,
hmm.
in my opinion.
So
Maybe in my opinion.
CLAT post, yes. So CLAT post actually helped me, and I think I could say the same for Kanishk.
Yeah, it really
And
helped, especially in the first few months
okay,
of preparation.
mm, and see, okay, so the most important topic lists. See, these things are obviously they will help you. But what I would suggest and what I did is that just prepare your own topic list and know what are the things that you have to do, like very important topics, and after that you can just cover some ancillary, some topics which aren't that important, but they're like very connected with those important topics, right? So
Uh, and connecting topics is very
that's something that
important,
you can
guys,
do.
for CLAT because
Um, See, in this
we
new
saw it
pattern,
in
it's
our
really
paper.
important.
Yeah, we saw it in our paper that there were there was a passage on space in general, but there were five very unrelated
Uh,
questions. Which one? Huh. Obviously, we didn't know all of them, uh, but like even if it was like the CLAT 2021 paper, there were three questions which are directly related to the passage, but the last two questions are tangentially related to it. So it is very necessary that you connect topics. So if you say you're studying for Chandrayaan, you also have to study for like other past missions or other
Mangalyaan and all
space
those stuff.
agents. other space agencies which are doing something similar, or other missions of ISRO. You really have to connect a lot of topics if you want to score a much higher. Because I think
See, the thing about
without that, getting 5 on 5 on a passage is very difficult, because a lot of questions are very tangentially related to it. Yeah.
right. See, the thing about GK, so even if you can't like learn each and every topic or each and every fact, just read about it. So I remember there was some question on drone and some drone agency,
Yeah.
and I hadn't like actually learned it, but somehow I could recall it. I had read about it somewhere.
Same.
So yeah, so that's something that really helps. Again, like getting back to that visual memory thing, but
Yeah,
yeah, so
exactly.
that's
So I
something
was
that
also
really
coming to
helps.
this point.
Just read about
I
it.
think with the question about geofencing and this
Geofencing,
this
yeah,
topic, I had never read this topic. I had, like, in my whole preparation, never even touched upon
same.
this topic. But just because while covering the budget, I think I just went over it. I
Hmm.
skimmed through it. That's why I
Somewhere I
could
read.
remember a few questions. So yeah, from somewhere you could recall. That's why I think revising, and especially with the active recall technique, is very important, because it is going to come down to your retention. It's not about कि तुमने कितना comprehensively पढ़ा है, because GK is infinite. You can never really cover all of GK. So it's just gonna come down to a lot of your retention and also guessing skills. And guessing skills also, you can, like, I think this we mentioned in the video we had with me, Pranshu, and Rishabh, about how when you solve enough GK questions, you also develop a lot of guessing techniques, because you sort of get used to the
Yeah,
paper
guessing
setters.
works.
Yeah, guessing works, guys. Without guessing, I don't think I would have been an analyst.
Same.
So guessing is also important, and that comes through practice. So I think the main takeaway is that practice is very important for the last 2 months, and by practice we mean solving actual questions instead of just revising. I think we can move to the next section if there are no more questions.
Huh. Okay, so it's just one question for. Okay, so quants, we'll come to quants later. And should I practice from CR from GMAT's website? Okay, so you can practice CR from like any source, GMAT, be it LSAT, whatever Kanishk mentioned in LSAT. He mentioned, I think, some website. So you can practice from any
Yeah,
source.
you can get a
So
lot of sources
is it
with
worth
one
to
Google search.
buy the NLTI GK book? Okay, so the NLTI GK book, it has like 2000 questions, and what both of us mentioned, visual memory and active recall, that's something that comes from practice and revision, right? So if you solve 2000 questions, you
Mm.
see just solving them can actually more or less you will be able to retain more than 1,000, definitely more than 1,000.
Mm.
And the rest of it just depends on how well you revise it. So I would say it's definitely worth it to buy the
It's
NLTI
definitely
book.
worth it. Like, even outside my contractual obligations, if I was a CLAT aspirant who got this opportunity, I think I would get it, because in the last 2 months, as we said repeatedly, practice is the most important for GK. And this gives you a great opportunity to practice. And Mohit, as for your question, I think I'll suggest you can go through the CLAT posts for the last few months. That
Mm,
should help you get like 5 to 10, 5, 10, 15 marks in GK, depending on the kind of GK that comes, if you're not even started with GK. So the
right.
CLAT
And
2024
so
aspirants. Yeah.
answering Aryan's question, so what you can do is you can just reduce the number of mocks that you take in a week. So you're taking 5 to 6 months, you reduce it to two for at least
So, yeah.
like a few weeks, and then just analyze them really well. And
Mm.
just analyze them
And
really well, because
there's no way to skyrocket in CLAT.
skyrocket your marks. It's a
You can only
gradual process.
skyrocket from 50 to 80, but after that, it's a gradual process. So once you analyze, you'll know your mistakes, and once you cover more of GK, your marks will automatically increase. I think the first time I got a score of
Mm,
80, I had like a 25 in GK. That was the only reason I got an 80. So once you cover more of GK, once you know your mistakes, I think it will improve with time. There's no way to skyrocket marks.
right,
And yeah, definitely reduce your 6 marks. I don't think anyone attempts. It's too much for 1 week.
right.
What you
And
can do is,
so
like, I think solve
Manthana,
sectionals. Yeah, continue. Sorry.
Manthan or Drishya is, I would prefer Manthan. Drishya is, so you can refer to Drishya as like for few topics,
I,
or
I'll say for
if you
particular
just want to
topics,
like
like
read
just
about it.
search a topic.
Very
I won't say
particular
ki
topics,
very particular,
but
because
don't
it's
like
way too wide.
refer to Drishya as a daily source.
I think a lot of people I know did it, and
Yeah, it can
it
help. I'm
can
not
be
saying
good,
that
but
it doesn't help, but
it is very. it is pretty.
If you see, cover the basic sources first. Then, if you can do it, if you feel that you can do it, just go ahead. No one's going to stop you,
Yeah.
but just make sure you revise it. There's no point
Uh,
in covering a lot of sources without revising them and without retaining them. Right. Okay, so moving on to LR. Okay, so mock stagnancy, we're going to talk about it at the end. So moving on to LR, right? So Kanishk, would you like to explain it
yeah,
first?
I'd like to start. So I think so this was my weakest section. Easily throughout the paper, this had been my weakest section. I never really prepared for legal theory until the very end. I was relying a bit too much on my comprehension skills, and that showed. I wasn't crossing 25 very regularly. So, what you need to do is, I'll suggest, of course, you need to go through a little bit of legal theory, and I'm pretty sure most of you would have gone through it. Just revise that theory, and I think something which is very necessary for CLAT is revising some very important case laws. Like, of course, you shouldn't know the judgment and all, but you should know what happened and what was ruled. Because what CLAT does, and a lot of mocks does as well, is they just basically change that very famous case and some details of it, and some things they change, and it's the same case. But a lot of times there's no way to know which is the correct answer. I think in CLAT 2021 there was a question on F1, where this F1 race car went into the stands, crushed one person. But
Okay.
yeah, but there's this very famous case also about, I think we read it in our TOTS class, about some racing club, and because of that the answer was yes, that guy will not get compensation. On the face of it तुम्हें लगेगा कि यार ये कैसे भाई गाड़ी चलते चलते स्टैंड में आ गई तो फिर तो उसके लिए तो मिलना चाहिए. This is not a reasonable danger I consented for. But I think revising case laws, some basic case laws, and they are very easily available on IP leaders or the website. So I think revising case laws is something very essential because you'll be able to solve questions much more easily. And as for the other things, previous mock passages, I think probably the best resource for practice is because English and CR, you retain a lot of information. You see the passage and remember, oh, I had solved this passage. Legal, a lot of concepts are repeated and you don't really know. You don't really remember a lot of legal questions. So this is something I felt. So I think even I revisited a lot of previous mocks for legal practice. Old pattern questions you have mentioned, but I never did them until probably the very end. I think the last 2 weeks. And I think the most important thing is point 4. Focus on grammatical details of the passage. This is something which will be very important in law school as well. But even for CLAT, for knowing questions and how to answer them, knowing small details, because they'll play you with small details. They play you with one word. They'll play with you with adding a knot or not adding a knot. They play with these small details. So it is very important that you focus on grammatical details. And yeah, current legal knowledge. I think even a sample paper didn't have a lot of old like things like nuisance or negligence. They had a lot of current legal knowledge questions. So it is very necessary while you are doing your GK preparation, you also cover legal developments and current legal knowledge. Yeah, you can continue.
Right. So see, the thing about fine tuning is there are like very small things, like for example, ands and ors, which are very important.
Yeah.
And okay, so I did old pattern questions because so what I felt is that the new pattern is nothing but a continuation of the old pattern. Basically, they just give you larger passages and you have to extract the principle from there. Right. And knowing the concepts beforehand, they can actually help you. So when we say that you see in this last 2 months, what you should do is fine tuning. See, if your like fundamentals are clear, it's going to get you to a certain marks range. But after that, it's all about the details, all about the fine tunings that you can do, right? And okay, so if you know the topic beforehand, what you can do is you can focus on the grammatical details. Uh, and you should read the passage. I'm not saying that you don't read the passage. Read the passage, even if you know the topic thoroughly. Just read the passage, and then focus on the grammatical
Is
details
there
of the
some
passage and of the
internet?
facts.
I
Right.
think there's some
And
internet issue on his
okay,
side. Yeah. Is it fine? I
uh,
think there was some internet issue
okay,
from
so
my
am I
end or
audible?
your end. Yeah, you are audible now.
No, your video is freezed. Okay,
Okay.
so I'm just going to
Do
answer a few questions here. Okay, so Rudraksh, you're facing a time crunch in legal section. Okay, so see, you have to somehow you have to analyze why you're facing that time crunch. Is it because you're okay? So how much time are you giving? So is it because you're spending a lot of time in like other sections? So that's something that you need to analyze. And LE mocks legal is hard. Okay, so a very good point that Kanish mentioned when we began is that if you prepare for tough a tough paper, both like prepare by giving mocks and mentally, then whatever paper it comes, it's just going to be very easy for you. And right, so
Am I
legal
audible? Am I
they
audible
are
right
hard.
now?
I'm not
So
sure.
sorry for this.
Yes, so you're audible. Right. So a legal
So
LE mocks, they are hard, but I think it's a very good source to prepare from. They're just going to prepare you from for. See, the thing about CLAT is they it's an elimination paper, right? So LE mock, I remember there was some passage about arbitration or something that was like absolutely uncommon for us. So, but that helps you in comprehending the passage. See, what CLAT wants you is not retention of knowledge. I mean, they say they don't want retention, but some amount of retention is necessary. But what they want you to know is how you can comprehend a passage and answer the questions, right? So LE can prepare you for that. LE legal mocks, they are a good source for CLAT preparation. Okay, so contemporary legal issues, just read the newspaper and basic sourcing. I mean, you don't like need to do it separately. Just read the newspaper, know what famous judgment, what landmark judgment the Supreme Court has passed, and all these things.
for example, for you right now, the hijab judgment, although it's a very controversial topic, so I don't think it would be necessary for the CLAT perspective, from a CLAT perspective, but things like that, just follow them and
See,
make basic
I mean,
notes.
assuming that because you guys are appearing for CLAT, we are like assuming that you have some interest in law, so you should automatically you should read about these topics, and
Hmm.
that's it. So just read the newspaper for contemporary legal issues, not much. And
Yeah, and
okay,
coming back to the
so
legal
just
edge mocks point, just one thing. This is
hmm,
something we also complained a lot about. I think during our preparation that LE mocks are difficult and LE mocks are annoying, and they are very annoying. But this is something Karan sir from Legal has told us back then as well, and he said कि ये हर साल कहते हैं बच्चे, but in the long run, and I believe it pays off because when you
hmm,
again coming back to the point when you prepare for a much harder test, we got used to LE का legal, we got used to it कि ऐसा ही आता है. When in the actual CLAT, the legal was, I'll say, much more easier. I think most of the
ah,
people who were LE students who were used to LE legal scored pretty good. Even I was very bad with the legal reasoning section, but I scored much higher than my average score in the legal reasoning section, and that's why I got into NLS. So I think in the long run, LE mocks will pay off. So don't stop giving them, especially in the last few months. Yeah.
right. See, legal reasoning. What I feel is that there's a very peculiar way of solving the passages. There's a very peculiar type of reason. Okay, so one way you're restricted because what you're doing is you're doing rule-based reasoning, right? So you're restricted, and there's a very peculiar way of solving the passages, which something that I don't think it can be like taught specifically. It's something that you have to internalize with practice. So
Yeah,
just
it comes
practice
through
will make that.
practice.
Just see, you have to hone your LR skills, and the only thing that can do is what you can do is practice. And first, focus on practice. First, revise your basic concepts. See, in these 2 months, you should like revise your basic concepts, and then you can go on and fine tune your preparation.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Should we move to the next section, or do you have any questions from the legal section? What was your reading speed? I don't think I ever calculated it. It's different. It changes, guys. For a
Yeah,
topic you
it's
haven't
just
read, it for a topic you haven't read, it will take time to read because you need to understand the passages. If it's something on a very obscure Freudian concept, it will obviously take me much more time to read. But because, say, if it's on Russia, Ukraine, because I've been reading so much, I'll be able to read it much faster. So don't stress on your reading speed. Uh, it is very, and it doesn't really matter. I think CLAT is
mm,
of a decent length. Like, you don't really need to be very fast. Yeah. Did
mm.
you participate?
So okay, so
Wait,
about
there's
reading
one.
speeds, what I can say is that just read from diverse sources. And as Kanishk said that if you're familiar with the topic, your reading speed it's going to just shoot up. Right. So if you read from very, so of course you don't like need to read a lot about Freudian psychology and all those stuff. But if you like read from science, technology, I mean basic stuff, even arts and all those stuff, just it's gonna work.
That yeah.
And okay, so,
Uh,
and just one
Somebody has
thing,
asked, did
I
you practice from
RSMs
RSM?
and
Yeah,
GMB. Okay, so I
I
practice
never
from,
touched my RSMs. I never touched my RSMs. वो सारी मैंने IDIH में दे दी हैं. I never touched my RSMs, but yeah, GMBs I did.
I practiced just from GMB. I didn't have RSMs.
Average
Right.
amount of time
Okay,
you
so
give to
average
legal
amount of,
section 40 minutes. 40 minutes.
yeah, 35 to 40. See, legal, if you like give ample amount of time and if you know how to, if you know that peculiar way of solving questions, then I think getting a score of somewhere 30 plus and even 35, I think it's pretty doable.
It's doable. I think in the actual CLAT, because the section was considerably easier, I think I spent like 30, less than 40 for sure.
There, you know,
But 40 was the average time, especially with legal age mocks, you at least need 40 minutes.
right.
Yeah. Average attempts, we tried to do 40.
LR mein you should like, see, one
Right.
thing about CLAT is that you have to be very smart and flexible with the way you attempt your paper, right? So if you feel that, okay, so one fact situation is like huge, then leave it. And you can like come back to it later, but leave it. So don't let your ego get in the way. Just leave it. But LR mein, like you can 40 attempts, it's pretty doable,
No, also,
right?
I think a lot of people rely on this. I think Kevin mentioned it in one of his videos that he relied on the technique. If he could eliminate two options, he would solve that question. I think that's a good way to go. And in legal reasoning, especially, it's very easy to eliminate two options.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll suggest that you try. I'll suggest in general you all should try for 150 attempts. It's not doable. I don't think I have done it in more than 4 or 5 mocks. But you should try for 150 attempts. That should be your main goal.
Mhm. Okay, so daily
Uh,
targets in these last 2 months. See, uh, okay, so GK is something that you should do regularly. Okay, so we are going to come to
we'll come
general
to a
tips and
general,
tricks
yeah,
after
yeah,
we
after
finish all
section,
these
yeah.
sections. Okay, right. So coming to CR was the section which actually haunted me throughout my preparation. But so the thing about CR is that again, like LR, somewhat like LR. See, one thing about CR is that if you have a good grip on English and grammar, specifically grammar, then CR gets much easier. But the thing about CR is that there's a very peculiar way of solving questions. And in
Yeah.
CR, what I feel is that you have to get into what you should think like the author of that passage and or the question set or whatever. Now, it's not a very easy thing to do. And so, what you
Comes
can
to
do is just
practice. It comes to
know your
practice. I
concepts
don't.
thoroughly. Know your concepts thoroughly. I mean, yes. So CR cannot be taught. No one can
Yeah.
actually teach you CR. CR is something that uh, see what you can do is just thoroughly learn your concepts, study or practice from the basic sources first, cover your coaching sources and all those stuff, and then you can refer to GMAT or LSAT, whatever. Now, GMAT or LSAT means so don't fret about how many questions you get right or wrong. They're really tough. GMAT and LSAT CR, I feel it's like they are much more tougher than RC. And
Yeah.
so don't fret about how many you get right or wrong. Just try to learn what they are. See, you have to compare the thought processes, what you are thinking, what they are thinking, and why. So in GMAT and LSAT, you will get like very good and very crisp explanations. And so just do that and understand their thought process, how they thought about the question, and what read the question stem. What is it that exactly they want? Inference, assumption, strengthening argument, weakening argument, whatever, and then move on to the option. See, in CR, you can also like practice elimination, extreme questions, and all those stuff. So you would develop your own strategies in CR if you like practice daily. CR, you can like you should practice daily. I at least used to practice it daily because I was very weak in CR.
Okay. So contrarily, I think I thought CR was one of my strongest sections. And just before I start, Anushri had a doubt. And yes, I know it is difficult after eliminating two, choosing between one option, but a game of probability kicks in. You have a 50% chance of getting it right.
Mhm.
And as long as you get even one out of the four questions, you will still be in a positive. So you have to try, because the game of probability suggests that you'll end up in the positive. And so just attempt. If you can eliminate two options, I'll suggest just attempt. And as for CR, so by the end, my preparation had for English and CR was almost the same. Uh, but in the early phases, as Jishnu mentioned, there's a small difference where you have to understand the author as well for solving CR. And for that, what you need to do is you need to think about the passage while you read it as well. Like, why has the author, just keep yourself asking the question, why? Why has this point been mentioned while reading it? I know it may seem tedious right now, but once you practice enough, it becomes second nature. So just, I think this is something we are taught in law school as well, and this is something very important for the legal profession in general. Just interact with the passage as well. Just think about the passage as well. Just don't read it blatantly. So just read it and think about it, and that should help you with a lot of questions like, what does the author mean by this particular line? I think those were the questions which haunted a lot of people, even me. I used to get a lot of those questions wrong, where they would select one line and they would ask you, what's the point of this line? What is the author trying to do with this line? So once you start thinking about it from a very simplistic point of view, don't try to make it very complicated. Don't use, I think, complex terms like this is a hidden premise, this is a, I don't know, whatever terms they use. Just think it on a very basic level. कि ये करना क्या चाह रहा है? Just that should be enough for a lot of these questions. And yes, GMAT, LSAT, great resources. Although I personally never did GMAT CR, which is the paragraph-based CR. I never did that. The GMAT reading comprehension is, I think, is the CLAT CR, because they ask questions like, what is the premise here, or what is the assumption here? And that is what CLAT CR asks. So for both GMAT and LSAT, I personally would advise you, don't go for their CR sections, their paragraph-based CR sections. First, go for their reading comprehension sections, because they are the ones which are much more relevant to CLAT. If you are preparing for AILET, and why would anyone prepare for AILET? क्यों जानना है किसी को NLUD? But if you are preparing for AILET, you can do it. Otherwise, don't do that.
Right. So, okay. So I like practice from GMAT and LSAT CR questions from GMAT Club. So not all of them are paragraph based. Some you can get like one liner CR questions, but they are really helpful if you for specific concepts. Like for example, how to find out the assumptions. And see, one very good thing about LSAT and GMAT is, so if you like know what is an assumption, then you just solve not much, just five assumption questions from either GMAT or LSAT. Then you would be thorough with what an assumption is and how to find out an assumption, right? So yeah, so that's it. Uh, See,
Uh,
GMAT and LSAT again, for they are very important for RC. At least, like I would say, they are really important for RC. But CR, as Kanishk mentioned, they are important. I'm not saying that they are not important, but if your concepts are
they are
clear, CR
dispensable.
is something that
They
you
are dispensable. They are
yes.
dispensable, is what.
So just learn your concepts and revise your concepts. That's something that can give you the edge in CR, right? Okay, so
And one more
mm,
thing, I think this is something I mentioned at the start. The reason Jishnu has been able to do the CR section of the GMAT and LSAT, and also where in the last point he says, including old pattern questions. This is something I never did, but I think this is because of the changes, difference in circumstances. He was a dropper, I was a fresher. Although I never really studied from a 12th as well, but I think it just depends on the amount of time you have. If you have a lot of time, if you are a dropper,
mm,
if you don't need to go to school, you can do everything under the sun if you think it will help you. But I personally believe that this paragraph based CR is not really necessary for the CLAT CR. Yeah. And
okay,
even for
so yes,
old pattern, because a lot of it was analytical reasoning. And
mm,
I don't think CLAT is going to ever ask analytical reasoning again until the pattern changes
mm,
again.
yeah. No, so my only problem with CR was I was very weak. Like I never used to get more than 20 marks. So that's why I was like trying different things to
Hmm.
somehow tweak my CR score. And I got, I think I secured more than 20 in CLAT. So it paid off
Yeah,
for
I
me.
think.
But just
Of course,
adjust
the
whatever
CLAT.
you. feel is good for you? Like
Yeah,
Kanishk was
the
strong
CLAT
in
CR.
CR, and I was very weak in CR. So yeah, so you have to adjust, you have to tweak your strategy according to your own
Strengths
preparation,
and
according to what
weaknesses.
you feel is
Yeah.
best for you, right? So moving
Uh,
on to data
to
interpretation, yes.
ask,
So the nemesis of everyone.
especially me.
So DI again, like see, it's a very cliched suggestion that everyone's going to give you about CLAT that don't leave out maths. Just uh, see DI. You have to be thorough with the fundamentals. So shortcuts you would be able to do. So before implementing shortcuts, they are like for some shortcuts like you have to fulfill certain things. Like I remember the CPSP in profit and loss. There were like something called that
There were a
you have
lot of
this
techniques that there
SPs
were a
have to be
lot
the
of
same
techniques.
and all those stuff. So just know your fundamentals really well, and
Hmm.
then you should know the shortcuts, because if you know the right method to solve it, you can actually solve it pretty quickly, right? And
I think you
so
develop
that's
your own
something.
shortcuts as well with time.
Yeah, you can
Like
actually.
I,
So I
I,
developed
I never really went
shortcuts.
into the fundamentals, but I had some calculation shortcuts, which I developed on my own from my own preparation and whatever. Even I don't have a lot of authority to say things about maths because I got a 7 on 15 in CLAT. But this is something I really regret. I think maths is some one section you really should pay attention to. And as you said, paying attention to fundamentals, you should really know it well. At least the four major topics, which are average, ratio, proportion, percentage, and cost price. You should really know these topics very well. I think the reason we are stressing on it so much is because it is easy to score in CLAT maths. Like, and those 10-5 marks can mean a lot. In 100 marks, you are getting an early seat into NUJS, and in 105, you are getting into NLS. And that's just one maths set, which and it was very easy to score in our maths. So that's why it is very essential that you at least do these four topics well and practice a lot in the last 2 months. Yeah, continue.
Okay, so coming to the second point, see the new part, and I think speed calculation is something. So when you have like tables, when you have data interpretation, see they're going to be pretty simple, right? Addition, subtraction, and all these stuff, but and multiplication and all. So even if you have to like solve ratios, percentage, whatever, if you're like good with calculation, just go amp up your score. And guys, please just try to learn the tables up to 20. Even I don't know the tables up to 20, but that's something that I feel is
I'll
important.
suggest
Is
I'll suggest till 30. Till 30, you should
I
if you
mean,
have the time.
tables you
If you
should
have the
actually
time,
know.
yeah. Even I didn't
Tables
know
because
them.
it's very helpful.
Hmm.
And thing about
And
CLAT is you never know what they give this time. So I think
hmm,
we didn't have like what we have like very basic topics in
we just
2022.
we just had percentage and ratio.
Addition and all those stuff. But
Uh,
you never know, like they can give time and work and all these things. So where you have to use squares and cubes. So just know certain stuff. It's just going to help you, right?
hmm.
And again, see, CLAT is very unpredictable. So first, just do all those four basic topics, and then after that, see if you have the time. I obviously like you should cover all the topics, but four topics you have to be thorough with, and after that, you can cover the rest, time and work and all those stuff. Now, I mean, I was a science student, so I enjoyed maths, but if you like have
Yeah.
certain uh certain negative feelings about maths which are like very genuine, still I would suggest like just know the fundamentals of each and every topic. That can help you. See, it's very unpredictable, so don't. Okay, so did you score 15 in mocks? So CLAT mocks, yeah, maths I scored 15 in many, I think.
I don't think I scored more
But
than I scored 50. I think I scored 15 twice in out of 60 odd mocks. So yeah, it's different because he was a science student. He had the background. I hadn't studied math since my
yeah.
class 10.
Mm.
It's different,
So
but
okay, so
I think
source
you
code
should get at
points,
least 10 to 12 in maths. You should try to get at least 10 to 12.
10 to 12 is something that you can actually get in maths, and
It is very
trust me,
achievable.
like achievable, and trust me, it's going to amp up your score, because maths is something that many won't focus on, and many would think that okay, so they are not going to ask anything more than what profit and loss and all these basic topics. But if they like ask something in time and work, which they can, I mean, CLAT can do anything. Then if you guys have like studied time and work and all these stuff, then you would be at an advantage, right? Okay, so
Yeah,
source, I think I use what I just use like common CL and LE source, nothing more than that, and mocks
yeah,
were there. Even
mocks,
one
and
thing in
I
mock,
think that somebody mentioned the Adda 247 book. I think we used that towards the
okay,
end.
I didn't
Uh,
use a book, but I used like some bank website.
yeah, you can. Maths is I think the easiest resource to find. Like, you can
Yeah,
solve banking POs
actually,
questions.
yes.
You can use old mocks. You can use anything. Maths, you
Maths is
don't really
actually
need
so
to.
in
Yeah,
English में मतलब you would remember old mock में मतलब passage में क्या होता है and all these things, but maths is something you can just
yeah.
practice for speed and all these stuff and
Hmm.
time yourself for maths. Yeah, so
Saroj, I
these are
know
like
the
more
CLAT
basic
sample
requirements.
paper was. I know the CLAT sample paper maths was slightly weird and slightly scary as well. I think I won't
Hmm.
have scored more than 4 or 5 in that maths. But firstly you have to understand that most people won't be able to score more than 4 or 5 in that mathematics section. And this is something they did even in the 2020 when they came up with a new pattern. They released the 3 sample papers.
Hmm.
The maths was slightly different, but by the end, I think the paper maths was basic. The next year, the maths was very basic, even though they got values wrong. I think in the paper, they just want to see your calculation technique. They don't really want to see your conceptual ability. So I'm
See
pretty
the
sure
thing
they'll
about
ask you on the 4 major topics only, but don't quote me on that,
See, the
obviously.
thing about maths is no one in law school, no one expects you to know anything other than addition and subtraction. And trust me, we had economics one, and no one knew how to differentiate on all these stuff. So no one is actually going to ask you. No, see, CLAT paper setters, they don't want you to know time and work and all these things in thoroughly, but that doesn't mean that they won't test you on that. They might test you, but it's going to be very basic. What they want is to keep your calm and solve whatever they throw at you, and you have to be very smart with that. So if you think that this set is tough, then just skip it. Don't fret over it, right? So okay, so can
Mm,
we move forward?
yeah. Yeah. Do we have any general doubts from maths? And then we can go to general doubts.
Okay, so the four
What are
major
the four
topic,
major topics? Yeah,
right?
I'll
So I
go.
think,
It's average,
uh,
percentage, ratio, proportion, and profit loss. I was getting 105 to 110 around in early mocks in the last
LE came off
2 months.
somewhat like that.
100 plus, 100
95
plus.
to 105, 110, somewhat like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can't really compare with our schools because our understanding of what kind of paper will come was based on CLAT 2020 and CLAT 2021. Your mocks will be very different because they are also based on CLAT 2022. So maybe your GK is hard and your maths is easier or your legal is easier. I really haven't seen the mock, so you can't really compare with our scores. And you shouldn't really see your scores in general as well. You should see your percentiles because that will show you where you actually stand
Mm.
compared to the rest of the people. You shouldn't really worry about your scores or be too happy about your scores because even if you get 115, if your percentile is 90, it means you haven't done really well. You could have done much better because a lot of people, every 1 in 10 person score more than you. Look at your percentiles instead of comparing scores.
So what I used to do is in the analysis section, they used to give I think Ellie gave the individual ranks of each and every section. That's something I felt is really important. And even CL, they gave like percentile for each and every section. That's something you can actually see and then analyze that. Okay, so this section my percentile was lower than my previous one, and so why is it and all these stuff. Then you can go into that. So don't care about your score. See, maths, GK, and all these things, score is going to fluctuate, but again, as he said, that percentile is something that should be constant. You should try and keep it constant and try to increase your percentile. That's it. And
Rudraksh, the 2 3 people
moving
scoring
on.
140 in LE are frauds. They are using some unfair techniques. Let me be very honest. We saw a lot of these
Okay.
people in our preparation,
Uh,
but no, nobody can score that
so
much.
don't bother about how much you're scoring and all these stuff, what your rank is and all these stuff. So just try to improve yourself. That's all that you
Yeah,
need to do. See,
definitely.
at the end, like see, you can like giving a mock and giving CLAT, it's very different, right? And you don't know like what's going to happen in CLAT. So rather than fussing about your mock marks, I think it's just better to learn from it and move on.
To see
Analyze
if
it,
you're
learn from it,
improving in
move on.
general. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Good
just to
percentile range,
mention again, there
good
should be no
percentile,
good
90.
percentile range. 90 plus is obviously a
95
good
is
range,
99,
but
95 is
honestly, you just see the
95 is
improvement.
pretty good.
I think you should
Yeah,
just see the improvement.
see,
If you have gone from 89 to 95, even if the score is similar, just be happy that you improved percentile wise. It means that a lot you did better than a lot of people. So look if your percentile is increasing, even if it decreases, it's not a problem. But I think a good way to judge your overall preparation, if it's going well or not, is if your general percentile is increasing. And a good percentile range,
yeah.
yeah, it depends on people. अगर तुम्हें बहुत है कि नहीं NLS ही चाहिए, top 10 ranks ही चाहिए, तो 98 is a good percentile. If you want to get into top 5 NLU, 90 is a good percentile. It depends on your own perception of your own preparation.
See, again, so it depends. See, it depends on how many people actually write the mock. Say if like just 100 are writing the mock and you get even a percentile of 90, what 95, still like you're good. You're like among the top few.
Yeah.
But uh, yeah, don't just fuss a lot about marks and percentile. Just try and improving. See, it's going to be an incremental improvement. See, it's CLAT preparation. What I feel is it's a roller coaster ride. It's never going to be absolutely smooth. If it is smooth, then it's well and good. But if it's not, just don't worry about it. Right.
Prakhar,
Okay,
I
so
think
we're just
around
going to move
25
on.
people, around 25 people from our Super 30 batch got into NLS, 25 to 30.
Hmm.
And in general, I think around 40 are in the top 3, 4 NLUs, like NUJS, NALSAR, NLUD. So around 30 to 40 people, I guess. Obviously, Super 30 had more than 100 people, which is weird, but yeah, around 40 people.
Okay, so moving on.
I think we have general doubts.
So okay, so we are going to take all the general doubts after we cover this last
Yeah.
bit. Okay, so see, in these last 2 months, what I feel you should do and what I did is that revise each and every topic at least once. You don't like need to go into the details and everything, assuming that you have done them in detail, but just revise everything in these last 2 months. And so the most important thing is going to be analysis. So now, as I mentioned earlier, that see, you can like score in a particular range with your fundamentals, but after that, it depends on your fine tuning and very small details. And what you need to do is you have to iron out your creases. So for me, silly mistakes, they were like a big part of
Yeah.
my uh, mocks, and they used to like reduce my scores a lot. But
Mm.
what I used to do about silly mistakes is that I used to so what happened is I used to miss out on facts and miss out on facts, even like miss out on question stems and all these stuff. So what I used
Yeah.
to do is I just wrote down that okay, you know what, I'm just missing out on facts and all these things, and I just wrote down. I made a list, and I just
Mm.
used to glance at the list before each and every mock. So if you like consciously know these are the mistakes that you might make, then you can actually minimize them. So that's something that actually worked for me, and there can be like a lot of things that you can try to minimize your silly mistakes. But yeah, just analyze it really well. And analysis, you don't need to like okay, so many people they used to analyze for 3 4 hours. I mean, there's no right time for analysis. You can do it for 3 4 hours, you can do it for 45 minutes, you can do it for 30 minutes, whatever. Just make sure that you learn something. Go through each and every question, whether you get it right, whether you get it wrong. Just think, was there a better technique to approach that question and all these stuff. So don't fuss a lot about it. Just do what you feel is the best for yourself.
Yeah, I think a very important point he mentioned was ironing out your creases. And I think this was my last 1 month. It was just about filling the small gaps. So I noticed that maybe I'm not scoring very well in the vocabulary questions or one particular type of question in CR. So I would just try to fill in those small gaps, because once you fill in these gaps, it will help you with like getting an extra 3 or 4 marks. And those extra 3 4 marks are very important, because like after you reach a certain score range, it's not very easy to cross 100. It's not very easy to cross 105. But doing these small changes, canceling out these small mistakes like vocabulary, or maybe one type of mathematic topic is troubling you. If you do small things like that, that can help you get extra 3-4 marks. And that can maybe a lot of times change your college as well, and it'll just help you get a better rank. So the last 1.5 months should be about filling in these small gaps if you are scoring in a good enough range already. Yeah.
And one more thing, see, CLAT, it's an aptitude exam, right? So I feel that more than preparation, you have to be mentally prepared for any type of paper, be it tough paper. Honestly, what I feel is that the tough paper is much better than a
Yeah,
very easy paper, because
Yeah.
provided that you have,
definitely.
you just like covered something or the other. But even if it's like a very tough paper or a random paper, like I feel I've not checked the sample paper, but I feel like it was somewhat bit random. Maths section was a bit random. But
Yeah, the
if you're like
yeah, it was slightly random. Huh,
uh,
continue. Sorry.
so if you're like mentally prepared for it, then it's just going to give you the edge. And yeah, so as you mentioned, that fine tuning is what you should do in these last 2 months. And one very important thing which I felt is that you have to be very flexible. You have to be very smart while approaching the questions. So I had a very set strategy. Like for the last 3 to 4 months, I didn't change my sequence. But in CLAT, I actually changed my sequence. So the first passage was a huge. I mean, it was not a big passage, but relatively it was bigger in RC, and I just skipped it. I think I attempted it
Yeah,
last. So don't don't be don't be rigid with your sequence. Just be very
sequence.
flexible and smart. If you like feel it's like a huge question, just leave it.
Hmm. Okay. So I think, yeah, my general last few months preparation was about just filling in the gaps. And one very important thing, this is something I saw in an interview from someone who is my senior now, which is where he says that your intensity in the last 2 months or just before CLAT supersedes your consistency throughout the year. So if you
Mm.
increase the intensity of your preparation right now, the momentum should be enough to carry you to a good NLU, or maybe better than what you may deserve based on your consistency throughout the last 1 year. Huh. So the one key takeaway if you want from this video is just increase your intensity of solving questions or giving mocks a lot in the last 2 months. You have to give an effort in the last 2 months. If you given an effort, whatever you did in the past 10 months, 1 year, maybe 2 years for some of you, is honestly irrelevant. What
Mm.
will decide your rank in the college you get is what you do in the next 2 months. So increase your intensity a lot, solve a lot of questions, solve a lot of mocks, analyze them well, do a lot of GK, and just give a lot of time to it, because I guess I think मैं थोड़ा NLS fanboy हो जाऊंगा इसमें, because once you, once you get into a good college, it's a very different life, and it is definitely worth it, guys. Like I think not just NLS, or but in any college, it's definitely worth putting in the effort in the last 2 months. Please, this is my sincere request. Ki the last 2 months, just increase your intensity a lot.
Right. So,
Yeah.
see, you have to convert whatever you have learned into implementation, right? So without implementation, all of it is will go over to waste. But yeah, so if you have put in the effort, increase the intensity of your work, then implementation, that's something that will bring about this implementation, and that's going to actually make you confident. That's going to get you, mentally prepared in that perfect mental zone where it doesn't matter what kind of paper it is, whether it's like a tough paper, random paper, whatever it is, you know that you're going to ace it. So this
Hmm.
feeling will come only if you like put in the effort. Without effort, nothing is going to come. See, it's very
I think,
incremental process. You're just not going to be a superhero in one day.
yeah,
So just
this
put in the
is something
intensity.
I think with GK.
Mm.
When we saw GK, like we had prepared very thoroughly for GK, but when we saw GK, we were taken a bit aback by क्या आ गया यार ये? We didn't know a lot of
Mm.
it. But the uh, confidence I had in my mind कि अगर मेरे को नहीं आता, if I don't know, nobody
Hmm.
knows it. Almost nobody knows it. That is very necessary, and that comes through work. So you have to put in the effort in the last 2 months. And I want to say it personally because the I didn't work really. I didn't work a lot the 1 year before that. But in the last 2 months, I think I put in a good amount of effort, which is the reason I was propelled to NLS. Maybe I wouldn't have got NLS without it, but the effort that I put in the last 2 months with the intensity that I prepared really helped push my preparation an extra step above. And that is the reason, like, I think I got this rank. Otherwise, maybe I wouldn't have got this rank if I just stopped or if I just maintained the same intensity I had been maintaining for the past 1 year. That is why it is very necessary that you push your momentum up a lot in the last 2 months. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so how to prevent a mind from an explosion? Okay, so that's it's actually a very genuine concern. Uh, so yeah, I think whatever we said that if you have prepared well, what Kanishk
Hmm.
mentioned is actually very important. If you have like prepared well, it doesn't matter whatever the paper comes. That you know that if you can't do it, then many others won't be able to do it, right? And
Uh,
so
Shreya,
that's it.
for your question on defining intensity, intensity means you solve much more questions. You you just given a lot more time than you give normally. I think by the last 2 months, I think I remember me and Rishabh used to just come on a video call. ऐसे lunch करते करते बात कर रहे होंगे कहते हैं okay, let's solve a sectional. So we'll test ourselves. We'll try to solve an English sectional in 20 minutes, sometimes even in less than 20 minutes. We'll do all this. Like हमारे लिए casual fun was solving a sectional. So that is what I mean by intensity. Just put in all your effort into CLAT for the last 2 months. No, that's not stubbornness. It's just putting in a
It's
lot
not
of effort.
stubbornness. Okay.
Huh.
See, it's
Like,
not stubbornness if you actually enjoy doing it, right?
yeah, exactly.
You have to
And
enjoy doing it. If you want to enjoy the next 5 years of your life, you have to enjoy the
you,
preparation.
even if you don't enjoy it, even I used to think, यार कब खत्म होगा, कब खत्म होगा. But just know that if you go through this right now, if you put in a lot of effort right now, the next 5 years of your life will change a lot based on the rank you'll get.
Right.
Huh.
Okay, so should you give 110 minutes? I mean, you can try doing it.
You can try.
Towards
You
the
can try.
end, you can try doing it.
I think what you can do is
You can
you
try.
can try if you are able to solve in the 110 minutes, then from the next few mocks you
Mm.
can go back to 120 minutes. It's not really a test of if you can should you do it normally. It's just a test of if situation needs you to solve the paper in 110 minutes. Something happens in the
Mm.
center. Like I got my paper 2 minutes late.
Uh,
So if something like
right.
that
So,
happens in the center, just be prepared for that contingency.
see, the thing is, even I got my paper 2 minutes late, but what happens is, so you take around maximum 2 minutes to fill in your details, right? But okay, so if you're like taking 110 minutes, some buffer time you can give for like anxiety and all those stuff,
Hmm.
right? And okay, so
Um,
accuracy first, focus on your attempts, and then accuracy.
hmm,
For accuracy, what you need to again, fine tuning is something that you need to do. Clear your concepts, and then see what are the specific mistakes that you're making. Are they like silly mistakes? Are you like not reading the facts properly, or do you like not know what an inference is? So
hmm.
that's how you increase your accuracy.
Yeah, I think that is it. If you have any more questions in general, if you have any more questions about, because I think the last 2 month strategy we have done, the main takeaway is just increase your intensity and just keep revising. Uh, if you have any questions about our life at NLS or anything in general, you can ask right now. Yeah, it comes with practice. Like I think I have solved a full sectional in 14, 15 minutes as well. Obviously, I had to skim a lot of the readings, but if I saw the passage was easy, it is obviously I never did that in a mock. In a mock, I would take 25 to 30 minutes. But uh, I think you can just I just got used to solving in 20, 25 minutes. That really helps. Just that is what I mean by intensity. Once you increase your intensity, it should help you. Philosophy passages are
See
difficult,
again,
so just read about philosophy. Uh,
so time again it comes with pure practice and the type of questions that they give. So I remember that CLAT में LR was more or less easy. So I had like completed LR in what 20 maximum 25 minutes. And so yeah, just practice. long passages, and that's why I feel that LE passages, they are actually good for AR. How to clear quants basics? Okay, so refer to
YouTube.
some, I don't know, like what are the basic books for quant. I didn't like use any specific book, but you can refer to your coaching material or mentors or whatever, and you can refer to YouTube as well. Right. Okay, so
Sumit,
for AILET,
I don't think we did anything in
for
particular for AILET,
uh
but the general advice is just do, I think, analytical reasoning, because that is the main differentiation. Just you can do focus a bit on the analytical reasoning aspect, and I don't think you need to do a lot more outside that.
see, don't again, personally, even I didn't do like anything specific for AILET. Most of the things are like very common for both AILET and CLAT. Like if you have a good reading speed, if you know how to solve maths. Okay, so AILET doesn't have maths anymore. So if you're like
Hmm.
pretty much like pretty decent with CR, then it's fine. So we are like sorted with AILET.
Yeah, Sumit, MK Pandey is good enough. I had read the first 3 pages of the book and I never used it, but I've heard from others that it's a good enough book. Did you prefer CLAT over AILET? Definitely.
Yes,
NL,
definitely.
NLU, NLUD was my third on my list. And this is just in general advice that you should prefer CLAT over AILET, because if you fail in AILET, you get nothing. But if you, as in, if
Mm.
fail, as in you get something outside the top 80 ranks, you get nothing. But in CLAT, if you get outside something outside the top 80 ranks, you still get something like NALSAR, NUJS, and all the colleges, the top 5, 6 colleges are great. So in CLAT, there is scope for
So,
failure as well,
mm,
whatever you define failure. But in
don't
AILET, you
focus
should,
on
uh,
AILET that much.
yeah,
Just
don't
focus
focus.
on CLAT.
A lot of the coaching institutes will tell you that this is not a secondary paper. This you should treat it with equal importance. Don't treat AILET with equal importance. This is something I said on the group. The people who treated AILET with equal importance ended up in NLU Delhi, and people who gave more importance to AILET ended up in HNLU. So don't give a lot of importance to AILET. CLAT should be a primary paper.
Yeah.
Can one clear
Um,
NLS in 2 months? I'm stuck in the.
Again,
You can, like, you can. There's
depends on the
nothing such.
intensity.
Again, yeah, it depends on the intensity with which you solve. And also it depends on your day. I think a lot of people who were scoring 75, 80s got into NLS as well. And shouldn't NLUD be, honestly, guys, it's a personal choice. I didn't want to go to NLUD initially because I thought it was way too close to my home. तो मेरे घर वाले कभी भी आ जाते, so I didn't want to go to NLUD. Jishnu, don't laugh. Um, and weightage of the most common. I don't know what that means. Okay, if you guys don't have any more questions, I think we can end it. If you have any questions about our life at NLS, which is very boring, you can ask. But otherwise, we'll just end. We'll wait for a few more questions. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay.
No one
No
is
more
interested
questions.
in NLS
No
life.
one is. No one is interested in endless life. Guys, there's nothing interesting a lot. How much spare time? It
How
depends
much
on
spare?
the.
Okay.
Okay, so it depends on two things. It depends on the college you
First time
get,
you get a
firstly.
huge amount of spare time.
Yes. So it depends on the college you get, firstly. If you get into NLU Delhi, you get a lot of free time. But if you get into NLS, you may not get a lot of free time. But it depends. If you are like us, तो तुम्हें बहुत free time मिल जाएगा college में. Free ही time free ही होगा. But if you are someone like who? Akshat, you won't get a lot of free time. It depends on the kind of person you are. How you guys tolerating? यार करना पड़ेगा. It is hectic, but करना पड़ेगा. Hostel fear. What is
Can't do
hostel
anything.
fear?
Hostel fear? I mean, what? Hostel enjoyment, not fear.
हाँ, hostel enjoyment ही होता है. भाई fear कुछ नहीं. It's a very fun place, and
Fear नहीं होता है.
just in general, I think this is general pattern in most NLUs, especially the top ones and especially NLS. कि everyone is very helpful. और कुछ ragging, nothing such as that. Every senior is really helpful, except Anish. And but yeah, college scholarships यार ये सब पहले आ जाओ यार, फिर समझ
हाँ
में
भाई,
आता रहेगा धीरे-धीरे. पहले आ
placement
जाओ.
range. I mean, just forget
5
about
साल है,
placements now.
बहुत टाइम है,
बहुत
5 साल.
time है. What time it?
Related clubs, there
No,
are, but they don't really function well at NLS at least. In other colleges, they may.
they're like one or
Uh,
two.
there are one or two, but yeah, NLS I think focuses a lot on the academic side. So maybe not at NLS, but in other colleges you have a lot of non-law related activities. Obviously, at NLS also there are a lot of
Hmm.
non-law related activities, but the attention is much more when it's
See, see,
related
the
to
thing
law.
about NLS is that okay, so the focus is much more like on academics, law, and
Hmm.
all those stuff.
Hmm.
They give you a holistic idea of what society is and what how law applies to the society, right? And uh, so the course curriculum, even that it's like very diversified, and now they changed the entire curriculum, and so it's very
Hmm.
diversified. So you get to learn a lot. So and
The,
thing about clubs and all those things, you if you like want to form a club, you can actually form a club yourself.
yeah,
So
yeah. We have a anime brigade at NLS. We have stuff
uh,
like that as well, but it's not
okay,
really very
bullying and
common.
ragging, nah,
Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen.
doesn't happen.
When we
Actually, doesn't happen.
compare GNLU with ILS Pune, which is better, GNLU, okay, GNLU is a top college of the country.
Definitely, it's a top five,
Uh,
right? Top five, top
Anish, do you
six.
want to end it? I don't want to end it like this. Anish, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes.
Bro,
Thank you.
people, yeah,
Yes,
people love
I.
your hairstyle. Kanishk, can you answer
Yeah,
this question? How do we get hair like yours?
Yeah.
don't go to a salon, guys. मैं बस पड़ा रहता था. Like I've gotten used to it. I've got used to it. मैं 3 साल से 4 बार गया हूँ. So that's how you get hair like me. I'm getting a haircut tomorrow, most likely.
Hmm.
Yes. And yeah.
Mohit
Okay.
is saying Kanishk is a co-founder of NLTI. Is this true,
Yes.
Kanishk?
Yes. It is going to be true in a while.
Sure.
uh, Thank you. Thank you. So, ठीक है. Uh,
हो गया.
हो गया. It's too much. I think we have answered a lot of questions. Great communication skills. Things I
Uh,
never thought I would
Thank you.
hear. Thanks a lot, but I don't think. But sure. Chalo, let's end it. It was
Okay.
great.
Chalo. Thank you. It was great interacting
Thank
with
you.
all of you.
And Jishnu will hopefully keep returning for more sessions.
Yes,
Hopefully,
Hope
I
so.
think.
Jishnu Dada.
Hope.
Yeah, Jishnu will be
Okay.
taking subject specific sessions now.
Yeah,
Jishnu,
because
are
he's
you up for
great.
it?
Because because he's great at every section.
No, I'm not.
That's why he.
Yeah, CR is the only section which troubled me a lot, but
uh, okay. Yeah, I hope so too, Aryan. Chalo.
hope so
Let's
to
end
me,
it.
Aryan.
Yeah, chalo.
All right,
See you.
Okay.
guys. Bye
Bye.
It was
bye.
nice talking to all of
Bye.
you.
Thank you, Ganesh. Thank you,
Bye.
Jishnu.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Anish. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, guys. That was it. Any doubts that you have regarding NLTI or regarding the GK booklet? I'm sorry, I'll not be able to turn on my video because I'm out somewhere. But yeah, if you want to know about us, if you want to know anything about the GK booklet that we are launching, please feel free to reach out. I am here for next 2 minutes. Any doubts? What is the shipping time? So the shipping today it was a Saturday and tomorrow it is a Sunday. So the post office is closed and unfortunately we were not able to ship the booklets today. But the first set comprising 20 booklets will be shipped on Monday. So if we ship it on 17th, that is Monday, you can expect the books to be delivered in like 5 to 6 days because we'll be shipping via speed post and that takes around 5 to 6, 7 days only pan India. Right. So you can expect the delivery to be around 26th, I guess. 25th or 26th. We are trying our best to get it delivered by the end of next week, but we can't really commit because like it depends on the shipping time that the carrier will take. But however, we are committed to provide you the books latest by 26th October. Cost of booklet, the booklet costs rupees 1,500 for our enrolled students and 2,000 for our non-enrolled students. Right, guys, I think that's it. No further doubts. 2024 के लिए बता दो please. Mohit, I read your message. I think you are doing great. If you are scoring 85 to 90, try giving CLAT 2023 as your dummy attempt. You will get to know where you are placed currently and what what is your like end result of the preparation that you have done for the last 1 year. So try giving CLAT 2023 as well. That will help you prepare better for 2024. And yeah, if you are in a coaching, that's well and good. If you are not, try to practice a lot from varied resources, as Jishnu just said, that you need to read from a lot of sources, which can be, let's say, Aeon, The Economist, what else, the Hindu editorials, the Indian Express. So that should be enough. Just like enhance your reading speed every day and improve your comprehension abilities. That should be good. Uh, Thanks a lot. I do not know your name, Meditation Music Free, but thanks a lot for your appreciation. NLTI is a student organization and supported by the students. So if we have your support, we'll be able to grow larger day by day and bring such new initiatives. Right, guys. All right. I think it's enough for the day. No further doubts. Thanks a lot for joining in and thanks a lot for staying with us throughout the session. It was a pleasure interacting with you. You were asking about NLTI initiatives. So we seriously do not know what we will be doing for 2024 aspirants, but yeah, you can expect the further updates pretty soon. Firstly, we are waiting for our CLAT 2023 results. Uh, are like if we want to sustain ourselves for 2024, we want results. And firstly, we are looking forward to only 2023 right now. If we are able to produce results, and that we are pretty sure of, that we'll be having top rankers from our mentorship program, then we'll come up with something for the 2024 aspirants. How much time it should take to finish the book? So basically, it is a practice booklet. First of all, it is not there for you to learn anything new. It is for you to revise, like whatever you have done in the past 1 year. The booklet will be there to help you put that knowledge to practice. So if you have read about FASPA, if you have read about NATO, FATF, G20, G7, so you can find a lot of passages covering different questions in the booklet. So this booklet is a great practice if you have already done something. If you have not done something, then you have to utilize this booklet in a different way. So let's say there is a topic on uh, what Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, or let's say what would be the topic, World Refugee Day. So if you have not done this topic earlier, and I presume that most of you would not have done World Refugee Day. So basically, what you can do is you go through the 5 questions. If you feel you are satisfied, and if you have enough knowledge that if this passage comes in the paper, you will be able to answer 2 to 3 questions, then it's fine. Because considering that only 60 days are left, you'll not have time to revise every topic that you are unaware of. So basically, if you are not aware of this, if you are not aware of any passage that appears in the GK question booklet, then you go through the 5 questions that follows that follow that passage. And if you feel that you are satisfied with the amount of knowledge that you have from those 5 questions, then it's fine. But if you want to know more about that particular topic, that is the World Refugee Day, you can obviously go on Drishti IS or Wikipedia to know a little bit more, so that if you are able to answer 2 to 3 out of 5, you'll be able to answer at least 4 questions in CLAT if there's a passage based on World Refugee Day. So this is how you'll have to utilize the GK booklet. So yeah, tomorrow we'll 90%. It's already done, but 10% there might be some exigencies. So we'll have a legal reasoning marathon tomorrow, whereby we'll be solving only the questions, and a person who has scored exceptionally high in the legal section will be there with you solving these questions, so that you get to know the approach of that particular person and how that particular person approaches the questions. And if a question is difficult, how we should not feel that we have taken aback, and we should overcome that, and basically how to approach a question. So yeah, the person shall be solving 20 to 25 questions live on YouTube, and that will help you understand the approach, how one approaches the question, and how one goes about eliminating the two. No, no, not Akash Bafna. No, this is someone else. Yeah. So yeah, how to eliminate between two options and how to basically score good in legal. So we'll be having legal marathon tomorrow. That would be of 2 to 2.5 hours. We'll update about it very soon. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining in, and thank you so much for your doubts and giving me this opportunity to clear all those doubts. It was a pleasure interacting with you. I hope you like our initiative and continue supporting us. Thanks a lot.